Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. So Darn Twisted, I'm Becca. Thank you for coming back or finding me for the first time and sticking around to watch this video. So today what we're going to do is we're going to make a very simple hardback single signature journal, because I'm seeing an awful lot of people on the groups recently saying, how do I go about just making a very simple journal, but they don't necessarily want it made with like a cardboard cover, like a sort of soft cover. They want something that's a hard cover. So thankfully I've got a few of these little books that I rescued, and I've got a variety of papers here to make a single signature. Now thankfully I have these really cute little music sheets, which as you can see are pretty much the exact size that I'm going to need, so that's wonderful. We're going to just trim down the edges, because obviously what you have to remember is that once you have put them into the book, once you close that, they will start to stick out. And just get that to sit, you see, once they're butted against the spine. So we're just going to have to take that edge off, which you can use your paper trimmer, or you can just use your guide on your cutting mat if you have one. Just line up nicely and see where you need to draw a line. Grab a pencil. So this is just another way of being able to do it without having, you know, any particular equipment other than if you're going to use eyelets to punch out your spine, then obviously you will need an eyelet punch, but that's unavoidable. You don't have to have a paper trimmer. And what would be even better though is if I know I probably say this in pretty much all my videos, but I'm absolutely awful at cutting. I should have absolutely used my paper trimmer, but I'm sure you guys are much better at cutting paper than I am. So now this is going to be my template for cutting the rest of my pages down. So I'm going to know just by laying those out here that that's where I need to cut. So if I grab my pencil and my ruler, I will measure those out, 17 by 13. So it does depend on your cover, so don't worry about my measurements, measure for your cover. Now if you don't have a piece of paper that is already pretty much the right size, it's quite simple to do. All you have to do is kind of line that up with the back, and you see this edge here, kind of aim for just before that, just a little bit before that, okay? And then that will give you your center point marking. So don't worry if you don't have something that's already pretty much there. So I know that I've just got to cut these to 17 by 13. So I'll come back to you once that is done. Alright, so I've cut out a handful of pieces of paper to the right sizes. Remember that obviously you don't have to have your pages the same sizes, that's not necessary, but if you are going to be sewing them in the way that I'm going to show you to do them, then you're going to want to make sure that your smallest piece is not going to miss either of your holes. Words. So if you're going to have your two holes, you know, kind of here, then you don't want your pages to be any shorter than that, because otherwise they're not going to catch one of the holes and they'll just start flapping around, and nobody wants pages just flapping around all over the place, you know. It's just not the done thing, is it? So okay, let's get all of those together. You can use, you know, anything from 4 to sort of 10 pages to fill a small journal like this that will make it bulge out slightly. But if you have any more and you try to fill them quite a lot, you're going to find it starts to spread beyond the realms of common decency. Now it's personal preference. I don't like mine to be sort of, you know, like this, so you just, but I did make one, my Forest Witch journal, that was quite bulky. Actually caused a problem just trying to find a box that it would fit in, but generally speaking I prefer them to not have much more of a spread than that kind of size that you can then compress when you close it a little bit. So the amount is entirely up to you. So now you're going to take your cut pages and you're going to give them a nice crease up the center point there, and grab a bone folder and just make sure that's got a nice seam going on. Fabulous. Now at this point, if you want to round the corners or age the edges, I strongly suggest that you do that now, because it makes it a lot more tricky to do once it's in here. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using one of my little decorative edge punches here, and just punching out those now. But as I say, you can skip this step and just leave them squared. It depends, you know, this is for making a very basic journal, but you know, that doesn't mean that you can't make it a little bit fancy. But we're just not going to be going crazy. You know, this is just to get people started on, you know, you see people saying like a proper journal. They're all proper journals, you know. It doesn't matter whether you're using hardcover, soft cover, you know, no cover. You know, if it's made to be a journal, then it's a journal, and that's the end of that. So don't fret it. So I've got all my edges, my little corners there just trimmed down, and so now I'm just gonna give the edges just a little bit of an aging, purely because of the theme. You know, mine's obviously mostly music related, so I'm just gonna make it look a little bit old and aged. But as always, you guys don't have to stick around for this bit. So that's all the pages together and inked. So that is now ready for your cover. So now the next step is going to be to put something on the inside of your cover, or if like me, you're using fabric, you'll do that part first. So the next part is to cover your cover, if you are indeed recovering it. If you're not recovering the outside, then you just have to recover the inside, which will be the next part of this. But first of all, we're going to do the outside. So first things first, we're going to just trim this down so that on the corners, as I've covered in other tutorials for doing this kind of thing, you want the corners to be sort of not quite at the corner of your book. Because when you do that, if you take it too close, when you fold your fabric across, you will have a nasty gap, and we don't want that. So we're just gonna get that a little bit shorter, and again we're just gonna go across there. Obviously it's exactly the same if you're doing it with paper instead of fabric. I just wanted to do this one with fabric, but the process is identical. So, you know, don't fret if you're not doing yours with fabric, it's fine. I think my fabric scissors may need a bit of attention, judging by the way they were struggling with that. This is not heavy fabric. Okay. Now, you can either use double-sided sticky tape, or you can use Mod Podge. You can use anything that you have that will glue your fabric to your cover. So, you know, that's entirely up to you what glue you use. On this one, I'm actually going to do a little bit of experimenting, because I usually use double-sided carpet tape. But I wanted to see how well this glue that I use will work. This is Yoo-hoo liquid. It's the gel liquid glue, not the twist and go liquid glue. That one is much thinner, much runnier, and doesn't have as strong a bond as this one does. So I don't know what that is, but I don't want it on there. So I thought now's the perfect time to see whether or not it will work with this glue. No good reason that it won't, because this is actually a really good glue, and I do use it for fabric. But not all glues suit all purposes, so let's see. So I'm just going to give that a little, pull that back into place a bit, because that's gone a little bit off the beaten path there. That's better. Yep, there we go. So yeah, let's see how that pans out. Oh, shaking the camera like a good one. Sorry guys, didn't mean to make you feel seasick. So let's do the same with the spine and this side. If it doesn't work, it's no big deal. I have so much of this fabric, It used to be on the wall of my photographic studio back when I was working, and when I moved to a different place, I took it down off the wall, and I've since been reusing it for other things, so it's still in the very good nature of junk journaling and upcycling things, so I feel like I'm okay there. If I have to use a piece more of it, it's not a huge deal. But I think I'm quietly confident that it will work, otherwise I wouldn't be doing it on a tutorial. There's always that thing, isn't there? You're like, yeah, I'm not going to try making a tutorial for something that I know is going to fail. Right, how are we looking? We are indeed stuck. Fabulous. So I'm just going to turn that over, and I'm just going to use my bone folder and just give it a good squeeze, just to make sure that everything is doing nicely there. Fantastic. That's wonderful. Right, I'm actually gonna, that was that edge that my fabric scissors seemed to be struggling a bit, didn't they? So I'm just gonna knock that down a little bit shorter, because I don't need quite that much of an overhang. I'm going to do the same on this side. Doesn't matter if it's a bit higgledy-piggledy, don't worry about that, it's fine. So now we're going to take our glue, and we're going to just go a little bit along these side and top and bottom pieces. So I'm just going to give that a nice spread around, so that it can give it a really nice grip, to make sure that there's all the area is sorted. And then I'm just going to take my scissors actually, and I'm just going to cut just a small little indent just inside the line of the spine. Sorry, that's off camera. I'll do that one again on camera. I'll do this side, I should say. So I'm just going just inside the line of where my spine is, and I'm just taking it not all the way down, again just, you know, kind of 3/4 of the way down. So now I'm going to fold that over, get that one glued down, come down the bottom, do the same, get that in, and then around the side and do the same. Try to pull it so it's nice and tight. There we go. Make sure those corners are nicely in. Then we're going to do the same for the spine. So just a nice tickle of glue in there. Again, making sure that there's enough to hold it. I don't know about using Mod Podge. I don't know how long that takes to dry. So I'm afraid I can't help there. But I know that this stuff dries really, really quickly. So it's it helps me be able to just do it in real time for you guys, you know. So let's just get that one over. Same down this end. It's always great when you can just do something and it's just really nice and quick and simple, and it shows just how easy these kinds of things are. I've just realised that's completely off camera again. I do apologise. I don't know what's going on with me today. I'm usually really good with that. But keeping an eye to make sure it's showing you guys. But I mean, obviously you saw me do it at the top, so it's no different. It's just I'm doing it on that bit instead. So thankfully you didn't miss anything vital. Okay, make sure you got some glue right up to the corners there, and then again we're going to bring that over, and we're just going to push it down, so right over that corner. Oh, that one's actually a little bit tight. I think I've actually frayed that one a little bit, but it'll be okay. Right, there we go. Fabulous. So that is your outside cover done. So now you just need to figure out what you're going to use for your inside cover. So again, that could be, you know, one of the music pages if you're using something like a music page, or it could just be, you know, some blank paper that kind of matches in you know, whatever you wanted it to be, really. It will have to be bigger than your signatures though, so do bear that in mind. I'm just having a little look here just to see if I've got anything that immediately strikes me as something I'd want to use. Maybe, yes, I think I could get away with using some of this paper. So I'm just gonna, you just want to make sure that you're about the same distance all the way around the 3 edges, and then just kind of give that a little bit of a fold just to give you an idea. And then we can fold that across. Fabulous. So that will then be cut and trimmed to go on that side and your spine. And then you can either use, you know, the same paper or even just completely contrasting paper for the other side of your cover, which is something I've just done on my new vintage journal actually, is that the back and the front inside covers are each in different but kind of complementary card, you know. And if you're going to use something like this and you've clipped out your corners, you might want to do the same, you know, clip out your corners, round them off, whatever, to make it tie in. You don't have to, but you'll only need to do the 2 edges that are going to be here. You don't need to bother about those because they're going to be hidden anyway. So you might want to, so just do that and then just give those an ink, and I'll come back to you in just a second. So I'm going to take this piece here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure this so that it's touching the corners, the edges, sorry, and it needs to be the exact same height as this piece as it goes across. So you'll just measure this piece afterwards. This is purely for the width. So we're going to bring it in so that it's lined up with here, and then what we want to do is make sure that this finishes just before the edge of your spine. So you want to just get yourself a pinch point in there, and then that will tell you the line to follow. There we go. So that will give you your width. So you'll just give that a fold along that line. And then what you're going to do is you're going to measure what the height of this one is, which is just, it's 14 centimeters for my one. So I'm going to need to make sure that this piece is also 14 centimeters high. So there we go. That's now the same height as that one. And we're just going to clip out those 2 corners again that will be going here and here. And then I'm just going to ink around those edges again as well. Right, so the first thing that we're going to do then is we are going to glue this in. Now, I'm actually going to just trim this back slightly. It's a little bit too wide. I think it's going to be better if it's level with the end of the spine that side, to be quite honest with you. So sometimes you have to make these adjustments on the fly. Oh, excuse me. You know, and that's absolutely fine. So this is just a very rough basic journal, you know. There's nothing fancy about this one. It's quick and dirty for people who just want a proper, you know, bound journal without all the faff and the fuss and, you know, this type of binding and that type of signature, and, you know, these are the basics. I'm going to only be using what we call a pamphlet stitch to sew the signature in, you know, so it's really nice and really simple for you guys. So let's just give that a nice line up along there and a good push down. At this point, I just get my bone folder and go like along that edge of the spine and just give that a nice little push, and then the same just along the spine there. So there are, I don't normally make them this quick and dirty, but if it's just for you or just a quick and easy gift, you know, this method is perfectly fine. So we're going to do the same, and we're going to glue this side down now. You know, I just thought I'd get in there before anybody says, well, you know, there's better ways of doing this. Yes, there are, but this is complete beginners. We all started somewhere, guys. You know, and a lot of people find the more advanced stuff really intimidating, and I totally understand that. because I was that person once myself. So now we want to line this up with the top and bottom edge, and then before you lay it down completely flat, make sure that you've got your edges all nice and where you want them to be. And then again, we're just going to give that a nice smoosh. That's the technical term for it. We are smooshing. This time I'm going to force that line for the other side of the spine, and I'm going to kind of just fold it towards the spine and just keep doing that. Do the same now with that side. Just make sure that it can bend without popping and buckling and, you know, doing horrible things. So in that respect, it is still quite a decent method, really, because you won't get all that horrible stuff happening that makes them look a bit ugly, I think, when they all start to do that. Right, that's your cover done. So it didn't take really that long, did it? So now we're going to grab our signatures. I don't know which way around I want those, actually. I'll have them that way. And we're going to just see where the kind of center point is along here. So we're going to get our ruler, and we need to measure this on the spine measurement. You see, that's why I'm overlaying it. Let me just move that up a little bit. I always keep putting things where I can see them. But yeah, because it's kind of important that it's relative to the spine, which is obviously 14 centimeters. This is mostly like, this is kind of even against your cover, which is why it's important to have that there. So 7 is going to be your center mark. So just mark that off with a pencil. You can erase that later. So now to make your 2 stitches for your, or 2 holes for your pamphlet stitch, you're going to just go to where your marker was with your ruler, which was here, and that takes it to almost 7. So I'm going to put it at almost 3.5 is where that's going to need a hole, and then I'll just take it from nearly 3.5 that way and make just another little mark there. Okay, so now I have the location of where my holes need to be. So what I'm going to do now you have a choice here. You can either punch them out with crocodile, you know, any kind of hole punch, and use eyelets, or you can just use an awl or a pokey tool, you know, anything like that. Make sure that your signature is sort of lined up nicely in the middle of your spine in both directions, you know, and then where that meets your mark there, you can just give that a push through, and when you'll feel that when it gets stuck in your cutting mat. Oh, I've just knocked that out of line slightly. There we go. Okay, you can actually clamp it down, it would make it easier, but I'm just freehanding this. So then we've got another one in there, and then our final one was there. Okay, so we've got those all put into the spine, and they're all in the signature. So there you can see, I don't know if you can see, but we've got our 3 holes in place. Fantastic. So now we need our needle and our cotton. So let's grab those. Now, I know originally I was going to do the eyelet method for this, but then I thought, well, I had a little break and I thought, no, actually, it's better to keep it incredibly simple for you guys. So we're not going to use the eyelets on this one. I have got tutorials on how to do eyelet binding if you do decide that you'd like to do eyelets in here instead. So you can just watch that one back, you know, and you'll be fine. So I usually try to measure kind of 3 lengths of my book, between 3 and 4. Sometimes you end up with a lot more excess. It's fine. And then if you haven't already got waxed thread, you can get the little wax blocks, which I actually have a couple here. There we go. So this one, you can just run your thread through the wax a couple of times, like so. Or you have these cube ones that I have paper stuck to. I am such a scruff. And this one, you would just kind of push it under your finger and run it through. Okay, Wax thread is not essential. People do, you know, use it, and they talk about having waxed thread. As far as I'm concerned, the only reason for waxed thread is purely that it helps stop it from getting tangled. So, you know, I don't think it's especially necessary, but for the purists, we'll do it. Now, again, you could have just done 2 holes in this as well. You could have just done the top one and the bottom one, but I'm going to do a middle one as well, just because it was there. So, yeah. So I'm going to start with my middle hole. I'm going to find the middle hole of my spine, which was there. And I'm just going to give that a little pull through. At this point, I now get one of my clamps, and I take the end of my thread and I clamp it with the pages lined up, and I clamp that piece of thread as well, because that just helps you accidentally, or it helps to stop you, sorry, accidentally pulling it all the way through. I just want a little bit more of that. Just make sure my pages are still lined up, because I have pulled them about a bit there. Right, so as I say, now we're just going to clamp the pages and the thread like that. So now we're going to come back through the top hole, which you should be able to feel, through the back of there, and then through. It does make it slightly easier if you have eyelets in, because the holes are much easier to find, but you know, that can be just a little bit overwhelming for, you know, for complete beginners to be trying to, you know, to do eyelets. Can be really intimidating. So we're just gonna find the holes instead, and I keep pulling it back out of that hole. I apologize. There we go. And we're going to pull that through. It will straighten up, don't worry, once the next hole goes in and I put that in the right place. Okay, so we're just going to find that last hole now, which is about there, and then we'll pop that through the middle of the paper there. Okay, I'm going to loose that now, because that's going to be fine, and that will allow me to just make sure that I've got enough tension that my signature stays in place, but you don't want it so tight that it starts to tear. Now that can literally be it, or you can go through, you know, you can go through another time if you want to, but if you're just keeping it very simple, I'm just pulling the needle behind that first loop like so, just giving it a little bit of a pull again, and then I'm just going to tie this off in a simple knot, just a little square knot. Okay, and that, oops, a daisy going through my ring as well. That's it. That will hold that now nicely and secure in place. Okay, it's going to be a little bit of wiggle, because again, you didn't want it to be too tight, so you're going to have just a little tiny bit of movement. That's fine. Now you can either cut those just a little bit, you know, across there if you want to. I prefer to tie a little bow, purely because it just makes it look that little bit more vintage, you know. If it's just kind of tied off like that, I don't know why, I just like it. So I tend to just do that, and then just give it another little knot. You can put a dab of glue on the knot if you want to, but I've not had one of these come undone yet. And then I'm just gonna take that end, give it a little trim, and there you go. So you now have a very quick, very simple, but really effective single signature journal, and you can start decorating that. You can decorate your cover, you know, however you would like to. You can decorate the insides of your cover, and obviously then start adding to your pages. Done. I really hope that you guys found that easy. I've tried to simplify it as much as I can possibly think of to just get it easy but also quick, but you know, obviously so that it's nice, so that it looks nice, you know, and it feels nice in your hand. It feels like a proper book, you know. Obviously if you're obviously if you're a bit more confident, you can add 2 signatures instead, you know, and just stagger them across the width of your spine. That's absolutely fine. But if I was to fill this now with the kind of things that I put in my normal journals, if I just grab this one, this is just my tutorial journal, but I like to fill them with sort of bulkier things, you know. I don't really like to keep them too you know, too flat. So all these things, you know, little notebooks and the like, they do take up space and they do bulk out the journal, which is why I don't tend to do my signatures very close together or have too many of them, because by the time I filled that out with things, it's going to be sitting about there, which is perfect for me. So there you go, guys. As I say again, I hope that it was helpful to you. If you found it useful and it gave you some confidence to give it a try yourself, I'd love it if you let me know in the comments. Give me a thumbs up on the video. They really help me, but they also help you guys, because it means that YouTube will show you more of my content, so you will see more of my videos without having to come look for them. Obviously subscribe, that would be wonderful too, but even if you don't, you just pop back now and then, it'll still be good to see you. So in the meantime, guys, take care, happy crafting, and I'll see you very soon.